and other various things that Yeshua spoke. Um, we'll look at Matthew 21, chapter 21, verses 12 and 13, and also 18 and 19. Also, we'll look at Mark chapter 11, 12 through 18. Also look at Luke 19, 45 through 48. And then we'll look at some things that happen over in the book of John 12, 20 through 50. So let's first go up to Matthew and read. Let's read 12, Matthew 21, 12 and 13, and then drop down to 18 and 19.
Matthew 21, verse 12. And Yeshua went into the set apart place of Elohim and drove out all those buying and selling in the set apart place, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he said to them, "It has been written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." Verse 18. And returning to the city earlier in the morning, he became hungry, and seeing a single fig tree by the way, he came to it and found not on it but leaves, and said to it, "Let no fruit grow on you ever again." And immediately the fig tree withered.
Okay, very good. So let's look first at when we see Yeshua coming along as he went to the temple, the set apart place of Elohim, and he finds these money changers. And also it says money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. So first of all, it's interesting when we look at the way this thing. Let's look at 12. Look at verse 12 of chapter 21. Okay, and so the King James there says temple of Elohim. What's that word? Sacred place. Oh, the entire precincts. Okay, so it's interesting. When we look at the scriptures version where it says a set apart place of Elohim, it kind of causes you to think about like the most holy place of the temple. But that's not what that is there. Where these money changers would have been actually is in the outermost court of the temple, which was the court of the Gentiles. Inside of that, there's the court for the women. But this is outside of that, where you have the court of the Gentiles, where everyone could be at. There was nobody who was excluded from the courts of the Gentiles. That was the innermost place. That's the furthest place where everyone was able to be at. It was the outermost place of the temple structure, which would make the most sense because if you were coming, no matter who you were, you would go there, and you could, if you was a Gentile, you could bring your offering there. You couldn't get anywhere else besides there. But if you're someone like Yeshua, who was really speaking to the masses, that's where he would be. Because if he went in further, like into the to the place where he was able to be, everybody wouldn't be able to hear what it was that he was saying. And so it's slightly confusing when it says temple, or even the scriptures version says set apart place, which makes you think about the inner part, where he was in the outermost part. And most times there was, public speakers and teachers and various ones in that section because it went all the way around the where the temple was, and that's where they would be. And so also who would be there would be your money changers. People were coming from various places, and they have their various currencies that they would want to change over into temple currency. Maybe they came from afar off and they had, they were bringing their offering, but they were so far off they wasn't bringing their actual animals, and so they would sell their animals, get money, bring the money there, and get their offering from these money changers, when they get to the tabernacle. Now, at this time, this thing was basically, the strip district. This place was very commercialized, where they were, and it really had turned into
Market.
it was the marketplace, right? And you could go there and you could get your turtle dove, which was supposed to be your thing that was all the way at the bottom. But capitalism, I don't know if they called it that, but that's what it was. They had inflated these prices for these people and made it be where it no longer was like the most accessible offering that you could bring anymore, because now you got these money changers, they trying to get theirs too. And so this thing was highly commercialized, and when Yeshua goes over there, he sees this and he's not really having it. He's not excited about what's going on over here. This place, which the place in general really was created to be this kind of buffer zone that was kind of all welcoming, right? It was made into this place that was was good for whomever to be there. Mm-hmm. But now, if it's a situation where if I don't got the right amount of shingles, the roofers gets just they never leave my mind. If these people don't have the right amount of shekels, they can't be there, right? And so it turns into like this thing. It's the marketplace. Mm-hmm. It's the marketplace, and Yeshua, he gets mad. And he lets the people know that, these people are doing bad things over here. And so there's chastising words that are brought up. And then he mentions this scripture that's out of Isaiah 56 and 7, where it kind of gives us the idea that this place that you've changed into this commercial situation was supposed to be a place where all nations was able to come and pay their respects to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But now it turned into this, this place of commerce, and this place that it says is a den of robbers. And so it's interesting when you look at specifically verse 18. Can you read verse 18 again for us?
Yeah, verse 18. And returning to the city early in the morning, he became hungry.
Hold on. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Go to Mark's version. Sorry, go to Mark's version in chapter 11 and verse 18.
Mark 11 and 18. And the scribes and the chief priests heard it, and they were seeking how to destroy him, for they feared him, because all the crowd was astonished at his teachings.
Okay, very good. So again, when we think about Yeshua in this time, he was kind of sought after by two people. He was sought after those that was trying to kill him, and he was sought after by the people who wanted to follow him. And so one actually outnumbered the other. And so even though the priests and the scribes and all of these people wanted to do bodily harm to Yeshua, even when they're going in there and he's messing up their situation. Like he's going in there and they got this situation where they're in there doing their capitalism thing. They getting their money over here. Huh?
Off the dock.
Yes.
Yeah.
They in here doing things. They doing whatever. They're doing as the Romans do over here.
They saw a business opportunity. They
Yeah,
said, look.
yeah. This
Set
ain't
up
nothing
shop.
but yeah. And so Yeshua, he goes in there and he disrupts that, but because of his popularity with the people, even though he's right in their midst, the people were so on his side, there was really nothing that they was able to do at that time against him. And so we see the most Yeshua and his zeal for the Most High, and his him operating kind of in a as we've been seeing lately, in kind of a kingship role, where he sees this thing that's happening in his place, right in his father's house, and he probably temporarily, but still does it anyway, this adjustment that is made. But because of the fact that the people were so behind Yeshua and wanting to follow his every move, if the scribes and the Pharisees at this time, if they were to try to do anything to him, they probably would have been mobbed by the people. So it's interesting dynamic that we see at this time with Yeshua, who is kind of wanted. He really is a wanted man, but because he was for the people, it was almost as if he was protected by the people.
You said in the past, because this happens earlier in his ministry as well.
Are you talking about this thing here?
Tossing the tables.
Yes,
and all that.
Yes, I think the commentators talk about this and say that this is a thing that happened on different occasions, where yes, it happened in other place, but the other time that it happens is not necessarily this time. That it happens on multiple occasions, where Yeshua's going in here and he's seeing these things that's going on, and he's not having it.
He probably did it every time he went.
Yeah. Yeah.
They probably said, "Oh no, he's coming."
Here he come. Like hide your bags.
Hide your shekels. Yep. Which makes sense, because it make it a place of not of repentance. It seemed like.
Yeah. It turned into commerce, and so it's so interesting when you think about. It's such kind of this slippery slope, because here is the temple. It's the place where, as Yeshua said, he said, "My house shall be called the house of prayer for all nations." It's this place that is accepting of those who want to come and offer unto the Most High. And so it's supposed to be this inviting place for all people who are willing to bring that sacrifice, to bring that offering to the Most High. And sometimes they're only able to bring, as far as what the offerings are, that smallest thing, like that turtle dove, that young pigeon. You know, that was something that the poor people was able to bring. And so to me, that makes it seem like it's this thing that's really low on as far as monetary value is concerned, and high on the accessibility scale. But these people have turned it into this thing where it costs now, and so it's changing the availability of those coming. And so it's interesting when you kind of think about this kind of in these modern day settings where, you know, these things that should be offered, you know, without a price. You know, it's interesting that in Isaiah, I forget which chapter it is, 64 maybe, where it talks about come and, you know, and have this food and this milk that is offered without a price. I'm paraphrasing what it says. But this thing that you're being offered, that you're able to receive from the Most High, it's at a price, but it's at no price to you. And so when we look at these things that really have been commercialized, you know, if you can buy my latest book, you'll have all of the secrets that can help you to gain your spiritual height. Right? If you're able to pay this price, you know, this will unlock all of the spiritual secrets that the Most High has given me to give to you. But there's like a price. There's a value placed on this thing that, you know, if you want these secrets, you have to come to my special meeting, my assembly that I'm having here. If you pay this fee, you know, you'll be able to learn these life-changing things as it relates to the Most High. Now, I feel like if you want to do these things in the secular realm, I think that's what you should do. And this is just my own thoughts, but to me, it's connected to this here. But as it relates to things that are connected to the Most High, I don't know how you put a price on that, and then I don't know how you make people separate people out where if they don't got the price, if they can't pay the price, they can't have it.
I think about there was a televangelist, and she said that Abraham took 318 men down to rescue Lot. And so she said, if you give a seed of $318 to her, you would be basically rescued from whatever type of situation you was in. If you was in a health situation, if you would, you know what I mean? Like whatever adversity you was in, if you sent her $318, you would be rescued from that adverse situation you was in.
I mean, these people, they come up with all types of things. Like if they don't have some holy water and be selling the holy water, you know, you got this disease. You know, you got cancer. I got this holy water. If you send me $19.99, you can have it and you'll be healed. It's like it's like these crazy things that people. I got this cloth, and I got the Holy Spirit, and the Spirit is on this cloth. If you send me 1999, I'll cut the piece off and send it to you, and you'll be healed.
So
Like,
is that what the sellers were doing?
well, it's not to that extent, but it's like they had the offerings that needed to be brought are there,
Yeah.
and they sold the offerings. And so if you were coming from wherever you was coming from, you had to buy the offering from them
Yeah.
if you didn't have it already. Like if you brought it, you have it. It's no big deal. But if all you had was money, you want to come and pay, and bring your offering. That's where it was. It's just like if you go to Disney World and you're thirsty. You can't take the stuff. I've never been to Disney World, by the way. You probably can't take your stuff in with you. They want to sell you it at the concession stands, which it costs a whole bunch of money. Like you walk, everything's all separated. You got to walk from here to there. Kennywood. I'll say Kennywood. And so it's like if you're there and you don't have what you need, they got it there, but for a price. Good.
Was it not like originally for a price, like people coming from a long way, instead of taking their
Right.
like animals, they would take their money and to buy
Yes.
animals to sacrifice?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. No, it is. It's exactly that. And so it's set up where, yes, if I'm coming from afar off, because you have these times when it was commanded for all the men to come up in a specific time. If you're way far away, you can't bring all of your sacrifices with you, so you change it over here. So it's the exact same thing as that, except now they putting a tax on it. Except now it's not just like, whatever it is worth, like you paying like the extra price. And so they turned this thing into like a commercialized thing where what they were supposed to actually be doing, it's like they took what it was and made it into something bad. Because, they had to have that set up because, like you say, if you're coming from afar off, you can't bring, it's like it's easier for you to just carry silver than like a whole animal. And then you got to feed the animal and all of this.
If you bring your tithe, like that's why people who say, "Oh, a tithe was only crops and whatever." No, they actually changed that out.
Well, you had
and
to
they
bring
took
your
the money.
your annual shekel up to the thing. You had to bring your annual shekel up there, and so maybe you needed change. Like they really was money changers.
She said,
Like they're coming from a different place. They had to have their what's it called when you go to the currency exchange? This was a currency exchange. It was a place where they had the animals. They would sell you the animals. All the stuff you needed, they had right there. But they put their tax on it, and they turned it into a business. And so that was the issue.
I think the biggest issue, it says it right here, because on the little thing, I don't know, but what do they call it when they, what is that called? Like it says Jesus cleanses the temple. What's that called?
Oh, just like a little title, I guess.
Or the title, what is the
Subtitle.
section? Yeshua cleanses the temple. And Yeshua went, he went into the set apart place of Elohim and drove them out. I think the issue was they were inside of there doing it. Maybe if they were set up outside of it.
Yeah.
But it's like
yeah.
you're in this place, it's set apart
Yeah.
and supposed to be for prayer and whatever we're doing in there. And here you got people right there, hey, yeah, give me the doves. And it's like how you really, focusing on what you need to focus on the inside. So I'm thinking he went in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying at the beginning, that when it says they was in the temple, they really wasn't in the temple, but they was in the outer parts of the temple, but it was still the temple, but it was the accessible part of the temple that was actually meant for everybody to be there. And there wasn't no restrictions. Like if you was coming up to the temple, there's certain people Well, that's as far as you could get. And with the things that they were doing, they was making the place that was supposed to be the most accessible place. They turned it into a place that was dependent on how much shekels you had in your pockets. And that was kind of the thing that Yeshua was dealing with. But,
And I also, I want to look into this some more, but I think about when we go to like other places, and we've been to, what's that place? I don't know, what is it? Was that in Ochi? It's a market where there's like a big market in Ocho Rio. Or we went there, remember? And they was calling us over to the place. And then they were saying that we said we was coming over there. And I was like, we came back there. We was like, we never said we was coming over to your place. But they also selling the exact same item.
yeah.
And it's like, even with this, everybody got doves. Everybody got the same items. And it's like, come over here and buy this. Or come over there and buy that. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if it was kind of like that same type of atmosphere where you're at a market.
It
and everybody
was
has
the
the
marketplace.
They have the same items that they're trying to sell.
When you look at Matthew 21 and 12, it says there was money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And so you have like the actual people who's connected with the temple who was the money changers, but then you also have the people who they probably had these doves that they had and they was ready to sell them. And so you had it really was a marketplace. And so when you think about it like that, I got the best doves right over here. I got the ones and so the things that they was doing, what's obvious is the fact that they had turned this thing that was supposed to be right. They turned it upside down and turned it into something that was wrong. All right, but this other thing that I wanted to talk about over here when we look at Matthew, we read Matthew 21, 18, and 19, but I also want to read, it's the same thing, but in Mark. Let's go to Mark 11, 12 through 14.
Mark 11 and 12. And on the next day, when they had come out from Beth Ayan, he was hungry. And seeing at a distance a fig tree having leaves, he went to see whether he would find any fruit on it. And when he was come to it, he found none but leaves, for it was not the season for the figs. And Yeshua responding to it, let no one eat fruit from you ever again. And his top ones heard it.
Okay, very good. So Mark gives us an additional information that we don't have in Matthew. In Matthew, when it says that they were going through, Yeshua sees this tree that's by the way. He came to it, and then once he gets near, he finds out there's nothing on it but leaves. And then he curses the tree. Now, Mark gives us the additional information when he says that it was not the season for figs. Well, if it's not the season for figs, why is Yeshua wanting there to be figs on the tree if it's not even the season for figs? And then he curses the tree. It's like he wants there to be something that is not even time for them to be even on there. And it's like he judges the tree, but what was he even thinking in the first place if Mark tells us that it wasn't even the season for figs. Hmm? Well, but my point is that if it's not the season for figs, why would you be wanting for there to even be figs on it if it's not even the season for figs in the first place?
Because it wasn't about the tree.
Okay.
Because I like the part where it said in his, what did it say? And his herd one, and his top ones heard it. When he was going by the way. And then it reminds me of 2 Timothy 4:2. This is what, at least this what came to my mind. And it says, proclaim the word, be urgent in season, out of season. Convict, warn, appeal with all patience and teaching.
Okay.
That just became a mind.
Okay. I like that. I think our and that fits over here because when you think about the fig tree and the way that it grows, it's interesting that the way that these things grow is that the part that you end up eating actually develops, not fully developed, not matures, but starts to grow first. And then leaves grow after, and they get big and cover the actual fruit so that as it grows, it's not like burnt and withered up by it protects the thing. And since they're connected, of course, the photosynthesis happens, the sun hits the leaves and it gets the nutrients and all the things. But the fruit emerges first. And so if you're afar off and you see the tree with leaves, you expect there to be figs on the thing. Because you see leaves, because the leaves come second. Now, being a wild tree, not a tree in somebody's property, you wouldn't necessarily, this is not something that would be harvested because it's like a wild tree. Like they was just on the wayside and he seen it over there. It wasn't like he was going up on somebody's property and taking their figs. It was on the wayside, he seen it. So it was wild. And so sometimes what would happen would be that these figs that were maybe out of season, it may not have been the actual season for them, you to get them in their fullness, but because it's just growing wild, you would have these figs that although they weren't in their full maturity, but they was never harvested, you might still even be able to get like a sun, I don't want to say sun dried, but you would get it in a form that would still be edible but wasn't fully ripened because nobody was sitting there pruning the tree or whatever. And so even though it wasn't like fig reaping time, there still was the potential for there to have been something there for Yeshua to eat. And the indicator, again, is the fact that there's leaves there. And so when he goes over to the tree and finds that there's nothing there, we see that he curses the tree. And so without kind of thinking about what like the life cycle of a fig tree is, you might say, well, why did he do that? But when we understand more how this thing works, if he really saw leaves, you assume figs because there's leaves there. Because the leaves are there to protect that fig that's growing. And so there was this thing that had a purpose, that when the master came to participate in the purpose of this thing, the thing had nothing to give. And so he curses. Go over to Isaiah 28. Isaiah 28. Let's read verses 3 and 4.
Isaiah 28:3. The proud crown of the drunkards of Ephraim is trampled underfoot, and the fading flower of his splendor, comeliness that is on the head of the fertile valley, like the first fruit before the summer, which when one sees it, he eats it up while it is still in his hand.
Okay, very good. So it talks about this first fruit before the summer, which when he sees it, when he sees this thing, he goes to eat it up. Right, so when we think about first fruits is not a fully developed fruit. It's just the affirmation that the fruit is growing, and if you allow that thing to fully mature, there's going to be something good at the end of the season. And so we see over here, it kind of mentions, verse 4 is really the verse. I just read verse 3 kind of just to keep the whole sentence together. But when that thing is seen, you go and you take it because of the signifier, which was the leaf. And so when Yeshua sees the leaf, he assumes that this thing is maturing properly, and beneath those leaves maybe was some first fruits that come before the summer that he would be able to pacify his hunger from. But again, when he reaches this tree, he finds nothing. Like, it's one thing to go and you go to the tree and there's just maybe some unripened things there. At least the thing is doing something, right? At least it's doing something. But it says, when we look over here, it said that he went to see whether he would find any fruit on it, and when he came, he found nothing there but leaves. And so even if it wasn't the season for figs, there still should have been some figs on the tree. It would just be unmature figs. Go ahead.
I mean, we talked about this the last couple weeks. When the master of the universe comes, there better be some fruit on that tree. The tree better make some fruit.
I mean, at this point, you don't even know what kind of tree it is. Like the layman who don't know could look at the thing. I mean, if you're like a botanist or something, you could look at the leaves and say, oh yes, this is a fig tree of the so and such variety, just based off of the leaves.
You remember Drano coming in?
I know, that's how he
Oh,
Drano.
yeah.
He look at us, oh yeah, that ain't nothing but some
No, Plan X
so and so roots or
right.
whatever. But it's like the regular person don't know that.
Yeah.
But Yeshua said you know a tree by its fruit. But if it ain't got no fruit, what is it? You don't even know. So he's looking at this thing. He knew it was a fig tree. He's seen a fig tree from afar off. But the average person don't even know what that is unless there's fruit on it. So it's identifying properties are missing. And so Yeshua essentially says this thing is good for nothing.
Rock.
He basically said raka about this tree and cursed it and said this thing won't never bear no fruit. And his top ones heard it. And so when you think about this now, and you think about the fact that, Yeshua, this life that we live, we only live because at some point as land, as soil, there was a seed planted in us. And, hopefully that thing is watered and nurtured and grows to the point where fruit is produced. But if this thing that's supposed to bring forth fruit don't never bring forth fruit, Yeshua is telling us that it's good for nothing. And then so for this one, he takes away the ability for fruit to come forth because fruit never came forth.
But what if it was on the wayside where people travel and people was walking past and grab all the figs off? It did it, and then he came walked up to it, and it was like,
I mean,
I'm just thought, look,
I think that the part is that understand that it was on the wayside, where it was literally like I remember. Do you remember the crab apple trees in Bellevue? Or was that before you? Oh, you remember those times?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And so, them things it didn't matter. They always had trees. So there was a nuisance.
Yeah,
those trees. There's apples was
You
everywhere.
slide on them.
And bees and everything else. The trees there was always apples. There was always crab apples on them things. Always. It didn't matter. Like you could go ahead and try to get things and with fig trees, there are things where you would really have to shake the tree in order to get them things to fall. And so, or climb them. But these things growing wild like this, you wasn't gonna get all of the things out. You was gonna find one on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gonna find one fig on the thing. And so I think the fact that it was wild, that the fact that it wasn't within somebody's borders would be more reason why there should have been something there.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Or even some rotten ones on the ground. You know what I mean? There was no signs of life anywhere, which is why Yeshua curses the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, when we think about this in terms of where we are, this was a lesson. This was a lesson. He did what he did, and his disciples heard it. That means this is a lesson.
Right.
And so what is it that we are supposed to be learning from this? We have to bear fruit. There has to be fruit. It don't even got to be a whole bunch of fruit. But let it be some identifying thing that lets you even know what kind of tree you even are. He didn't find 0 fruit on this thing, which is the reason why we see over here where he says this thing is good for nothing. Well, he don't say that, but when he curses it, he implies it. All right, does anybody have any thoughts, questions?
That'd be a good tree. Good tree, there's good fruit. Bad tree, there's bad.
I mean, even a bad tree
Had fruit.
got fruit. That's the thing. Like even a bad tree got fruit. Like how we was sitting underneath of that poisonous tree. The tree looked like it had crab apples on it. But the local guy let me know that he said we shouldn't even be sitting by this tree. We found this spot on the beach, and then it was like, oh, this was a nice spot for us to have Shabbat on our vacation, and we sitting under this bad tree. But it had fruit on it, all types of fruit, but not good fruit to eat. Like it was actually what would have made us sick if we did eat it. And you know me, I was about to eat it. But at least it had fruit on it. But this thing had nothing on it, right? So it literally was good for nothing.
Well, the bad fruit would be the fruits of the flesh. You don't want them ones.
Right, but it's still fruit nonetheless, right? It's bad fruit, but like you're showing, like there's a manifestation of what that thing is at its core,
Right.
whether it be good or bad. But if you got nothing, if you just like I don't even know what that is. What is that? Like like if you like you don't do anything. Like you literally are good for nothing. You don't do nothing that's good or bad. Right? You don't have any fruit. Like you ain't got no good fruit, but you ain't got no bad fruit either. But that's kind of like hot or cold. Like either you hot or cold. Like if you cold, you know, you're the same as somebody who's lukewarm. You don't want either one. So it's just like if you don't got nothing or if you got something that's not good, both of those is bad. Right? You can't be on the fence. You can't be neutral. Most I don't want neutral. He just want that hot, that fire. All right, let's keep on going. Let's go down to John. Let's go down to John and look at because Yeshua is about to he's about to start like saying a whole bunch of different things, and we'll just read down and look at a couple of these things that I thought stood out. So start reading at John 12. Verse 20.
John 12, verse 20. And there were certain Greeks among those coming up to worship at the festival. These men came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida of Galilee, and were asking him, saying, Master, we wish to see Yeshua. Philip came to Andre, and in turn, Andre and Philip told Yeshua. And Yeshua answered them, saying, The hour has come for the Son of Adam to be esteemed. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit.
Okay, hold on a second. So Yeshua's about to get into these things. Hesky, plug that in. Let me see that plug. You coming this way. Yeshua's about to get into this situation where he's about to start talking about these things that are soon to happen in terms of his physical mortality, as to where, you know, he's about to die. He has this situation that's coming. Um, and he begins to talk about these things more, but it's not straightforward necessarily. Um, but he says that this hour has come for the Son of Man, the Son of Adam, to be esteemed or to be glorified. Um, but he says this in an interesting way. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it does die, it bears much fruit. And so again, we have this idea of this thing of the end result being this idea of fruit bearing. But in order for this fruit to actually bear fruit, there has to be this process that happens that includes death. And so it's interesting that when Yeshua begins to talk about, he's talking about he says this right after he talks about the Son of Man needs to be glorified. Like we can think about it and understand what he's saying after the fact, but the people that he's talking to, they're probably like, what in the world is you talking about? First you said something about you being glorified, now you talk about this seed of wheat and ground and dying. Like, what does these things even mean? But you think about how a seed even works. Like if you follow a seed in the ground, this thing it appears externally to be withering up, and like it shrivels up and dries up, but inside of that withered up, dried up thing comes out this new life that it begins to grow and look fresh and new, but not before the external thing literally withers up and dies. And so he's referring to his own self, but he's talking about it in terms of these kind of teaching examples in terms of these grains of wheat. Okay, read 25 and 26.
He who loves his life shall lose it, and he who hates his life in this world shall preserve it for everlasting life. If anyone serves me, let him follow me. And where I am, there my servant also shall be. If anyone serves me, the Father shall value him.
Okay, very good. So again, he has this collection of things, these sayings that he's saying. They seem to be kind of along the same lines, but there's different, I guess, things, points that he's making within it. He who loves his life shall lose it, and he who hates his life in this world shall preserve it. And so, you just kind of look at it kind of on the surface part. Like if you're loving your life, it don't have the caveat of in this world, but I feel like it belongs there. Right? The second part says if you hate your life in this world. Probably, I don't know. What's it say in King James Version, verse 25?
25. It says, he that loveth his life shall lose it, and he that hateth his life in this world shall keep it until life eternal.
Oh, yeah. So it's essentially exactly the same here. But what I'm saying is that although you don't have the caveat in the first part, he who loves his life shall lose it, I think you could still put it over there, because that's the point, I think, that is trying to be made. If this thing that you love about this life, it's not really life anyway. So you loving this thing that thing that you love, you're going to lose that thing.
You don't lose it anyway. I'm not.
Yeah. Love it or hate it, actually, you still gonna lose it. Right? You could hate it, but you still gonna lose it. Right? But when you hate this thing, it says he who hates his life in this world, you don't have a love and desire for the things that are attached to this world. It says that it shall be preserved for everlasting life. We always think about, I don't want to say we always think about, it's talked about of people, living and dying and going to heaven. But it said right there, and he who hates his life in this world shall preserve it for everlasting life. What's the it? Is it life? Or is it life with the caveat? What's it? I don't know what it is. It said, he who hates his life in this world shall preserve it.
His life.
It's not his life in this world? Or is it only his? Which one is it? Is the world excluded from the it? Is my question.
The life is in the world.
Oh, you say the world is excluded from the it.
The world to come.
The world to come.
Because what's the reason why we should hate our life now
In this world.
in this world? Why? Everybody got a thought?
I have a good life.
Do
She
you?
got a good life.
Oh my goodness, you do?
Oh, you don't hate your life?
You have a good life?
I'm okay.
Okay, somebody write this down.
Hey, she said it. You better.
It's recorded. It's
He
recorded.
said it's recorded.
What's the minute marker on this?
I mean, there's certain times.
Okay,
where
all
everything is
right.
closed down and
Now we see.
Like we didn't have electricity a couple hours ago, but still, in general terms, I'm not persecuted unto death. At least, you know what I mean? Like,
I got an answer. Or Africa, you want to say that? I thought you raised your hand. I would say the only reason why I would hate this life is because the world is now ruled in righteousness.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Because in a world not ruled by righteousness, how could you really love life? There's injustice everywhere you turn. There's the judgment, righteous judgment is not being executed. So how could you possibly love it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my answer.
Yeah.
What you
And,
got?
and it's a good answer.
That's a good answer.
It's a good answer. I think that there's a separation. The it's, doesn't include this world,
Yes.
but it includes a world
That's right.
that's different from this one.
Amen.
But it's not somewhere else. It's right here.
Sure.
It's in the renovated
Renovated.
existence of this place. Right, when things are brought back to the way that they're supposed to be. And so it is a world, but it's not this current existence of the world.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, and then also he says over here, if anyone serves me, let him follow me. Which is interesting because, we have many people who say that they serve the me here is Yeshua, but there's not. Oh, look at that verse 26. What's that? What's that? G9190. G1. Follow. okay, that's not the word I thought it was, but it has kind of the same idea where that word literally is about the idea of following. Like if he's going somewhere, you're going
Well,
there too.
Disciple.
Disciple's good. I really thought it was the other word in Ephesians. What's this? What's this? Where's Ephesians chapter 2 and verse? Is it 2 or 1? Look at chapter 2 of Ephesians. What's verse 1 say? No, 5 maybe. Chapter 5. That's it. I thought it was that word there.
Imitators.
Oh, and
King James says followers of Elohim, but that word is mimickers. Mimickers. It's a different word. But when we follow Messiah, when we follow Yeshua, when we think about the idea of discipling, being a disciple of Yeshua, you are a mimicker of.
Yeah.
You're going down the road that he goes on. When you talk about walking in someone's footsteps, right? That's a euphemism. It's a euphemism, but it only makes sense because it's something that pictures what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're walking the way that someone else walks.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though those words aren't the same, mimicker and this word over here, it gives you the same idea. And so he's saying that there's a connection. If someone serves me, let him follow me, because those two things correspond with one another. Where I am, there my servant, he's going to be right there with me. The things that I do, the servant is going to be doing those exact same things. And then guess what? If you're serving me, the Father shall value him. And so there's a connection between your service to Messiah, the fact that you're following him, and the Most High's pleasure in that whole process in you. Okay, read 27 through 30.
No, you back in John.
Oh yeah, sorry, back in John, yeah.
It says, "Now I myself am troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this reason I came to this hour. Father, esteem my name." Then my voice came from the heaven. "I have both esteemed it and shall esteem it again." So the crowd who stood by and heard it were saying there had been thunder. Others said, "A messenger has spoken to him." Yeshua asked and said, "This voice did not come because of me, but for your sake. Now this is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world shall be cast out. And if I am lifted up from the earth, shall draw all men unto myself." This he said, signifying by what death he was about to die.
Okay, very good. So we see over here interesting thing in verse 27 where he says, "I myself am troubled." What's that word mean there, troubled? To stir or agitate, trouble. And so this, I would say, when we think about Yeshua from a physical standpoint, as an instance where Yeshua, from the standpoint of him being a man, is understanding some of the things that are connected to what's going to physically happen to him in his body. What you doing? Goodness. It's hijacked.
I'm making it worse.
There is a connection to the thing that is about to happen in the physical body of Yeshua that he has to contemplate and deal with. He's talking to his disciples about it. He brought up the whole wheat thing and the dying thing in order that life may happen. And as he's saying it, he's speaking to his disciples and realizing that this thing is about to happen to him. And so as he's existing in this physical experience, and he has these things to say in regards to the idea of, this, if this wheat, if it falls and it dies, and it has to die in order to bear fruit. But now he's talking about the fact that this, the very reason that he came, the very reason that he even came and is here, is coming to pass in this actual hour. And then this amazing thing happens that we don't see a lot happen in the scriptures in verse 28, where it said that a voice came from heaven. And then what did the voice say? What did that say in the King James in verse 28?
28. Father, glorify thy name. Then came there a voice from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again.
Okay, so Yeshua is making this declaration, this outcry to the Father, saying, glorify thy name. Let your name be glorified. And they hear a voice from heaven. Some people thought it was thunder. Some people thought they heard a voice. I thought that was interesting that this thing happened. The writer here says that a voice came from heaven. Some people heard the voice. Some people just thought it was just thunder that was happening. They wasn't able to distinguish between the two. But we see this this affirmation that's given from the Most High to Yeshua, affirming what it was that he's desiring, what it is Yeshua's desiring at this time, and people heard what happened. Some people heard it and didn't recognize that they heard it. I feel like those was the unbelieving people that only heard thunder. Like the believing people probably was like, man, did you just hear that? And then people was like, no, what you talking about? I heard some thunder.
Ears to hear.
Everybody didn't have an ear to hear.
You know what
I
I'm saying?
think at that time I thought that was interesting that those same people there, some people heard it, and some people just heard thunder.
My sheep hear my voice.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
It's
it.
in the book. It's in
That's
there.
And so you had people there that wasn't the sheep,
Yeah.
right? Okay, keep on going. 30. Oh,
29.
right. You read 31.
Oh, wait.
You read down to 33. So.
And John?
Yeah, you did. You read. I want you to read the 30, but you read the 33. So. There.
Oh, yeah.
When we talk about this idea of this world, a distinction is being made through what Yeshua is talking about the separation of this world, the world to come as a thing for the hearers, and they're making a separation between what's going on now, the ones that are in control right now, and then this idea of Yeshua and him saying that if I be lifted up from the earth, shall draw all men unto myself. And so I feel like this could really have multiple kind of understandings. I mean, the first thing I think about, if he's lifted up from the earth, I think about resurrections. If he's lifted up from the earth, I think resurrection. Because it's not like lifted up on the earth, like when you think about his death. If he's lifted up on the earth. But it said he's lifted up from the earth as if he's in the earth, and then now he comes out from the earth. You know, the first he's talking about death. To me, that's what I think about. And then the second part, to shall draw all men unto myself. You know, this really is the greatest proof, signifier of who Yeshua is. The fact that he lived a life. He did all. Not only did he do all these miracles, but he lived this life, and he died, and he came back.
Yeah.
He was resurrected. Right? And so this is one of the greatest things that people look towards of understanding who Yeshua is and accepting this mission, this thing that he created. This idea that he literally was lifted up from the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then he helps us understand it better. Then he says, signifying by what death he was about to die. So he's talking about his death.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, to me, that helps me to understand the idea that he's not only talking about his death, but he's also talking about his resurrection, which when we think about it is kind of, you know, it's pretty important in regards to how this whole thing, the whole plan is played out. It's not the end, but it is a means to an end. Okay, then something interesting is said in verse 34. Read verse 34 right there.
34. The crowd answered him, we have heard out of the Torah that the Messiah remains forever. And how do you say the son of Adam has to be lifted up? Who is this son of Adam?
Okay, so something interesting happens here when the crowd now is asking questions. They ask this question, we got the Torah, but where do it talk about in the Torah the Messiah remains forever? It caused me to think about that too. Like, where is that in the Torah? Anybody know?
What verse was it?
That was verse 34 of chapter 12. The people, they're questioning, they're in the crowd questioning Yeshua. We have heard out of the Torah, out of the law, that Messiah remains forever. I'm trying to figure out where they hear it from. They got all these questions.
He said they got these questions.
But what Torah verse are they referencing?
That's not in the Torah.
Huh? It's not? Well, what they
I
talking about?
asked the question. I don't know the Torah verse.
I got it. There's something in there.
All right, well, let's do something here. Let's go to John 10:34.
John 10:34.
We can get to the answer right now.
He's gonna get to it. Sorry.
John 10 and 34, what does that say?
Yeshua answered them, is it not written in your own Torah, I said, you are Elohim?
Okay, Yeshua says that in red letters. Yeshua said that. Is it not written in your own law, in your own Torah, you are Elohim? He's quoting the Psalms. They just talk like that sometimes. They could have just said the Bible. It's not in the, it's not in the Torah.
We call it the Bible.
It's not in the Torah,
That's
even
not the
though
Torah.
it's
That's
not the
David.
Torah, right? So let's go back over there.
Just thought like
They do this. They just talk like that sometimes. He's saying the Torah, but it's not in the Torah. It's just in the Bible.
this. It's in the Tanakh.
It's in the Tanakh. Go to Psalms 110 and verse 4.
110 and 4. Psalm 110 and 4. Yahweh has sworn and does not relent. You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek.
Okay, very good. So the people, when Yeshua is connected to this whole order of Melchizedek, it's kind of the ultimate signifier of Messiah. And so when we think about the idea of the Messiah and him remaining forever, this is where it is, right? And so when Yeshua affirms that he is this one, that's basically at the end of the day becomes the nail in the proverbial coffin. But I just thought it was interesting here that, the language when you look at this it says when we heard it out of the Torah, it's not really the Torah, it's just really the Bible. Well, you got a question?
Well, first of all, that we aren't in the order of Melchizedek, that he is.
Yeshua.
Yeshua is. But I think about when I think about that, he shall be lifted up. I normally think about that being the death.
Yes, like the serpent thing.
The what?
Like the serpent thing. Lift it up.
Oh yeah. That's where I was at. Yeah,
Mhm.
I normally think about the death because again everybody will look at that serpent and then they would be the
Healed. Yes, from the
yeah,
curse.
the plague would be stopped or whatever. And then also the verse, I think that's I was just pulling it up in Zechariah, I think, where it says they will look at him whom they have pierced.
Mhm.
Where is that? Zechariah 12 verse 10 maybe. They will put Zechariah 12 verse 10 on there. Verse 10 and
You read it. And I shall pour on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Yushalayim a spirit of favor and prayers, and they shall look on me whom they pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourns for his only son, and they shall be in bitterness over him as bitterness over the firstborn.
Yeah. I think that is when we think about this idea of Yeshua or the Son of Man being lifted up. Yes, when we think about the idea of connecting him to what happens with Moses in the wilderness and the plague of that the Most High put on the people, and then whenever the serpent on the staff is being held up and people was able to look up to it and be healed, and we think about Messiah, Yeshua, on the torture stake, and when we look to the sacrifice that he made as the Lamb of Elohim, as the Passover lamb, we 100% look to him as he has lifted up, and we believe, accept his sacrifice that is made. That's part of it. That's part of it, because if he only dies, though, if we think about if he only dies, and then he dies as a sacrifice for our sin. So he becomes a sacrifice for our sin. And then that's it.
And then what?
Then we're left still back in the same position, though, potentially, because if we have sin, we have a sacrifice for that sin, so all the things that we've done prior is taken care of, but what about moving forward?
Exactly. Yeah, nothing else.
And so we need for him not only to raise from the dead, but to go back to the Father, to send back the Holy Spirit so that the Spirit could come and live on the inside of us and cause us to walk in his laws, statutes, and commands.
Yep.
And so we need for the whole process to happen. But when we think about this idea of him being lifted up from the earth, it's kind of like, that's the thing. Like when we look at these things, these prophetic things, it's not always like we want for this thing to say exactly what the thing is, but it has many facets to it. It's like a jewel, right? Where you could look at it one way and you see this one thing, but you look at it from another way and you see other things. And so his resurrection is part of it. His death is part of it, but it's all pointing to what he did all of those things for, which was so that the Spirit could come and live on the inside of us, so that the fruit could happen.
Yeah.
Right? And so he has to be that seed that is buried, that decays, and that so that life can be renewed from him, and so that fruit can come forward. And so it's a process. There's a lot of things involved in this idea of him being lifted up.
Yeah, that's right.
That's another reason to hate this life, because
You can't-
the people that existed in his life hated righteousness. Righteousness came to the earth and they killed him.
Yes.
And so now he's the only thing to look forward to.
All right, let's drop down to the bottom. I'm going to drop down to the bottom so we get ready to be finished here. But let's go down to let's look at verses 46. Let's go back to John 12 and 46 and read 46 through 50. We'll end on this now.
Okay. I have come as light into the world so that no one who believes in me shall stay in darkness. And if anyone hears my words but does not watch over them, I do not judge him. For I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. He who rejects me and does not receive my words has one who judges him. The word that I have spoken shall judge him in the last day. Because I spoke not from myself, but the Father who sent me has given me a command, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his command is everlasting life. Therefore, whatever I speak, as the Father has said to me, so I speak.
Okay, very good. So, verse 46, when we look over here, I've come in and we just kind of mentioned that. He came as light into the world. John talks about how he came as light and then people rejected the light. Which sound goofy, really, when you think about it. Because imagine being in darkness, and then while you're in darkness, light comes, and you say, it's not light. It's funny that it's mentioned, that it's talked about in this way, but if we think about in the way that is given to us, it makes it seem even more kind of preposterous to think about what's actually happening. You're in darkness, which many of us were in darkness. I'm saying literally and figuratively, but literally, recently, we were literally in darkness.
Oh, you know about the lights was out.
The lights was all the way out.
Oh, you funny. I was already moving past that.
And then imagine seeing lights while you're in the darkness and saying,
I woke up
that's
to the
not
light this morning.
That isn't light. Imagine you waking up and there's light and you saying, nah, it's still dark out. That ain't light. Right? But what is that? But that's what happened. That's what happened with Yeshua, where he literally came. He came as light, and those that was in the darkness looked at the light and said, "That ain't light." He said, "I have come as light into the world so that no one who believes in me should stay in darkness." And so it's interesting because it takes that faith to even be able to accept that he is in fact light. So maybe he don't look like light. Like, is there a way that somebody could look at it and be like, I'm not, like, be unsure? Like, is it light? Is it really light? I know that darkness is interesting. I was thinking about this in the darkness. When, like, when there's power, and all the lights around, you can still see because there's light other places, and the light, it comes. There's nothing that can stop it. Like if there's a hole, it's coming through. And so you can have all the lights out and really manage around because there's light coming from somewhere and it's making its way in there. Mm-hmm. But when there's no light outside. There's no light inside, but there's no light outside either. There's no way for it to come in. You literally can't see anything. Like it's pitch black. And so Yeshua is talking about us in this world as literally being in darkness. And so when you're in darkness, you have a unreal view, perspective of what is. Mm-hmm. You don't even understand what actually is because you can't see everything. You can't see anything. You don't understand the things that are around you. Something could be right in your face, you're about to walk into it, but because you're in darkness, you can't see it. Mm-hmm. Your perception is untrustworthy. You can't be trusted. The things that you have to say about what's going on around you, I don't trust you because you're in darkness.
Yep.
The thing that you're describing to me about what is, how could you even know because you're in the darkness?
And that's the point that got across. Verse 46, I come as the light into the world, so no one who believes me shall stay in the darkness. People walking around with their eyes open. You see in front of you. But the next verse, if anyone hears my words but does not watch over them, he switches to the word. The light is the words that he said. That's the point right here.
Yeah.
The light is what he was speaking.
Yes.
And which is the concepts, the things that you manifest, because your spirit digests words, and that's what causes you to act. Not how good you can see outside, or no, what he was saying. His words was the light, but who can interpret what he was saying? Who believed the light? I just want that.
If you ain't part of a sheep, you can't even hear.
You can't even hear what he's saying.
But when you do hear the words now, there's things that you're supposed to be doing as a result of the words that you heard. If Yeshua's saying, get up and go over there, and you've never gotten up, and you've never went over there, you didn't hear what he said. You're in darkness. Like if you're in the light, you can't stay in the darkness. You can't act like it's dark whenever it's light. Now you got to act like is light. Right?
Which come by what? The words. What are you saying? What are you hearing?
It's so funny. Like this idea of darkness and light is just, it's perfect. You walk with so much more assurance when there's light. When it's dark, you're kind of just creeping. You should have seen me. Like I was, because it's my thing to say that if my first security measure in my house is darkness.
Yeah.
That's my first security measure because I know my place better than anyone. So my first security is darkness. But when it's pitch black, you should have seen me like I'm like with my foot, like you can't see my foot, but I'm like edging it to the edge of the step. And making sure that that's the edge. Okay, now I can step down. Okay, that's the edge. Now there's so much like trepidation in the darkness. But in the lights, like when you're able to see and know what's what, you're walking with confidence. Which that's faith. Is confidence. And so when you're in the light, you can't walk. You can't not be in confidence because you're in the light. Don't stay in the dark. But these next two things, to me 47 and 48 is the same thing. To me, he's saying the same thing, but he's saying it in a different way. He said, if anyone hears my words, but does not watch over them, he won't judge that person. If you hear the words, but you don't watch over them, if we're going to call the words the light, if we're going to call the words these seeds, you don't watch over them, you don't align yourself with the words that you've heard. He said, I do not judge that person who did that. For I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. Okay. All right. Okay, that's what he said right there. I think we can't talk about what it means till we couple it with over here in 48. If he said it, but if you reject, he who rejects me and does not receive my words has one who judges him. So that one, the person who rejects the words, he has somebody to judge him. The word that I have spoken shall judge him in the last day. I don't know what the difference is between 47 and 48. Because if you hear the word and you didn't watch over it, you kind of rejected it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to remove kinda from it. If you hear the words and you didn't watch over it, I'm coming. There's going to be a reckoning for all unrighteousness. There's going to be you exist in a kingdom that you can't see right now that has a king, but he hasn't made himself manifest, but he will make himself manifest. So you need to align yourself with that kingdom and that king now beforehand. If I don't watch over these things, the person who heard the word and didn't watch over it ends up in the same place as the person who rejects the word. It's the same thing. He said the same thing two different ways. As he's walking around, he's not judging you. He's not, and in him not judging you, he's not executing a sentence upon you. I'm saying he's not judging you in that regards. But the one who is being judged, the one that does have judgment on him, he's not receiving execution of judgment either until the last day. So there's no difference. There's no difference between the person in 47 that's being talked about than the person in 48.
So my question is, whenever he judged that fig tree, was that like the end time of the fig tree? Like the end time, basically?
He went so.
Because he didn't even let the fig tree live long enough. another
Well,
day.
it said I don't know if the fig tree didn't live, but it did. It said if
Nobody would eat from it
Oh,
again.
did it say wither right there?
That's another,
Oh, different.
I don't know which gospel that was.
Okay, go to John chapter 3. What about John chapter 3? Let's see, go down. Wait, hold on. You're going too fast. 17. Start reading at verse 17, John chapter 3.
For Elohim did not send his Son into the world to judge the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He who believes in him is not judged, but he who does not believe is judged already, because he has not believed in the name of the only brought forth Son of Elohim.
Okay, that's the verse right there. If you don't believe, you're already judged. You already judged. So when Yeshua says what he said to the tree already was manifesting its reality already. It already was this fruitless thing, it was worthless already. Yeshua just affirms this thing that's already going on already. It's already living a fruitless existence. So Yeshua really just agrees with that fruitless existence. And so those who don't believe, there's not an additional judgment that they receive. They're already judged because they exist as non-believers, and it takes them to believe to come out of that existence that already exists.
And guess what? You got to the last day. You don't want to be.
That's it.
You got to the last day.
That's it. So there's no additional thing that needs to happen. He said what he said what he said. You believe it or you don't believe it, but you're already in a state where you need what it is that he has to offer. If you don't accept what he has to offer, it don't put you in a worse position. You're already in a bad spot.
Yeah, he's showing you the way out.
Yeah, he's not taking you. He's not putting you nowhere. You're already where you gonna be at.
You're already walking dead.
He's taking you out of a situation. He
He's
don't
trying to
put
help
you in
you.
a situation. I ain't come to judge.
I'm trying to help you out.
That's it.
You don't think my own
And then you there. You already drowned in. You already in there in the water with no life preserver. You're there. That's where you are. He, Yeshua, is providing the life preserver. Good.
I just thought of it's funny he says, I'm not here to judge, because it's funny, a lot of people think that, like, that they're being judged, the light comes out, but it's more or less true.
I mean, he said.
It's saving, that's what I meant to say, sorry.
He said, the word that I have spoken shall judge him in the last day, because I spoke not from myself, but from the Father who sent me has given me the command what I should say and what I should speak. Judge, the word judge is a funny word because there's different parts of it. If I see somebody doing something and I say, man, you need to stop doing that, that's bad. And then for them to say, well, you're not the judge of me. Only God could judge me. That's
Then
what
you
it
get judged.
But the thing is that even when Yeshua's saying here where he hasn't, I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world.
Right.
But he did. He's the judge though. He is the judge, but first he comes to save it, and then he comes for final judgment. And so
Right.
there's a difference between me saying the things that you're doing is going to cause you to be in hell. I've made a judgment about your actions.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not judging you in terms of I'm not putting you there. Right? I'm not the one that's putting you anywhere. I'm making an observation about what you're doing, and that the thing that you're doing is going to cause you to be there, but it don't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is saying
telling
these
you,
words.
yeah.
And so people will say, well, you can't judge me, but actually, you do, or you're supposed to do that. You are supposed to judge people
You are.
with righteous judgment.
Yeah.
When Yeshua talks about these things, judge not lest you be judged by the same judgment. I can't sit up here and talk to you about something that I struggle with and talk to you about it because I didn't never fix that thing inside of me. But if it's something that I fixed inside of me, I can take that thing out of my eye so that I'm able to clearly see what it is that you're doing to help you get the thing out of your eye.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said. And so people don't like to be corrected about things and say, well, you're not the judge of me. Yes, of course I am. I'm not the final judge. I'm not the one who has the little hammer thing to say guilty. Pow. I'm not that person. But I'm able to look. I'm able to observe. I'm able to make a observation, and I'm able to give my determination about what it is that I'm seeing.
I mean, people, they say that, but then when they go to the doctor, they want a diagnosis. You know what I mean? And so I feel like it's just people not really liking the diagnosis or the prognosis of what your situation is going to be if you continue in that. But at the same time, that's between them and the Most High.
What's between them?
Just, whatever their final course.
Oh.
You know.
Yeah.
People want to put people in hell, but whatever.
No, but I'm saying that I'm.
Oh,
But you
well,
can't.
some
But
people-
you are
some
though.
people-
But
some-
you are
but
judging
There's
them.
a fine line between that, because some people be like, "Oh, I just said whatever the truth was," but when you said what the truth was.
No, but I'm saying that.
Condemnation on
I'm
them.
saying that we mashing all of these things together, but there's various aspects of judging. Now, the final judge, the one who drops the hammer and says what's what, is the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know what his law is, you could say what he gonna do.
Yeah.
You could say what the precedent is.
Exactly.
He set the precedent, and you could know what the precedent is, and you could say what the precedent is.
In ancient Israel, they had judges. Just like we got judges today. It's a law, and who's going to determine whatever according to the law but a judge. We all judges. We're all judges. Every day you wake up, you make a judgment call. I'm going to go do this or do that or do this or be around this person or not. That's all judgment.
I know what the Most High has a propensity to do. He can have mercy on whomever he wants to have mercy on.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a way that he rules, and he usually rules in a particular way. And I can tell you what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he decides to have mercy on you, that's what he might do. But I can only go according to what the rule usually says, and that's what I'll say. It could be that he just might, he might have mercy. He might let it slide. But if he goes by the rules, the precedent, I can tell you what the precedent is. Okay? And so that's the only thing that we had to go by. And so again,
Ebony
when you
said-
talk to these people that are in the darkness and you got light, who is Yeshua, and these people, like, if somebody who sits up there and says that you tell them some fault that they have, and then the next thing that they say is that you're not my judge, they want a reason, an excuse to keep on doing the thing that they're doing. Where's the light in that? There ain't none. There ain't no light in that. That's darkness. You don't know what you're, like, you can't say this, but I'm just saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You're in the darkness.
Trying to use solar.
Huh?
They were trying to use solar.
I don't know. Trying to use, they doing something, right? But they're not operating in light,
Right.
and so their words, they can't be trusted. Those people, because that's an excuse. Tell me what situation that could be happening right there, where you notice someone doing something that's, we'll just say, is bad. And then their response is, you're not the judge of me. That person wants to keep on doing that thing.
You're fired. That's what I say to people I judge all the
Okay,
time.
but now see, but that's a different thing though. When you're talking about that, you're literally the final judgment as the boss to say, if that's what you're going to do, then you have the ability as the boss to say, you can't, if you want to work for me, you can't do that. So what we say as followers of Messiah is that we know what the boss likes. If you want to sit up here and act like and say that I'm not the judge, well, I'm just a worker for the Most High.
You about to get fired.
You
You
got
don't
to
want
get fired.
on the last day.
You're gonna
You don't
get
want
fired.
to get fired on the last
you
day.
can do it if you want to, but there's gonna be consequences to your actions. You're gonna be fired. I can't fire you, but you're gonna be fired. You're gonna be fired.
Our community looks the way it looks because of the lack of judgment.
Yeah.
And it's I believe it's a part of bearing fruit. Like if you're letting people just be wicked and you're not trying to stop them and advise them to do things a different way, that's not bearing fruit. You're just watching your world get more wicked around you. You know what I mean? And I believe that that's a part of bearing fruit. And like it's easy for me to identify a lot of the things because I used to do it. You know, a lot of us used to do the same thing. So yeah, you might have a little splinter in your eye, but you know what you can say? You can say, hey, you know what? I'm struggling with that same thing. Let's try to help each other, walk the right way.
And I think that's a helpful tactic because because of our pride as humans, it's easier for me to accept. This is not justifying my ignorance, but it's easier for me to accept you joining yourself into the thing that I'm doing that we both need change. It's easier for me to accept that than for you to just tell me what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
But that's pride.
That's called sandwiches.
That's pride. But it's a hard thing, this flesh, because as soon as somebody identifies pride in you, the pride in you causes you to not accept that. It takes humility to be able to force someone to say, hey, you're operating in pride. Oh man, maybe you're right. You even got to say it lower. You ever got to talk lower because it's humility is needed.
Yeah.
But all of these things, Yeshua is helping for us to understand that this walk, it desires for us to follow in His ways and do the things that He established, and it's necessary Like that's when we think about it in this light dark kind of paradigm. We think about the idea of light and dark. Like darkness, I mean, light exposes what's in the darkness. And so the whole point really is, if we are the light of the world, is that we're shining light in these dark places and making assisting in the ability for people to be able to move about it in the way that the Most High created for us to be doing. And so if we're in this world of darkness, you got to come out. Like you got to come over to the other side. You got to come over to the light. You have to follow after. You have to receive these words that He's spoken. If you don't receive them, you're not going to receive them. But when He comes back as judge, there's going to be a payment that is going to be necessary to give. All right. So, does anybody have any last questions, comments, or anything? Oh, all right. Yes.
Why was it, why,
You know,
why did you say, not, because it wasn't from myself, but from the Father?
Oh, okay, very good. So, Yeshua at times, and specifically in times of as He's speaking, He's giving the things that He's saying credibility. He's putting weight and emphasis on the things that He's saying. You looking at me and I'm telling you all these things, people sometimes need a reason to believe what it is that I'm saying. And so
hold on. How people be like, I put that on my mama. He's like, I'm putting it on my father.
that's it. And so it's not something that He's making up. Even though, but He says, the only thing that He ever spoke was the things that His Father said for Him to speak. But that's just a way to say, this, I'm not making this stuff up. What He could have just said is, I'm not making this stuff up. This is what the Most High said. That's what He said.
Yeah.
I'm not just pulling this stuff out of thin air. This is what the Father has said. So it's a way of giving value to the things that He said. He said that he never spoke His own words. He only spoke the words that the Father has said. And so, but He's saying that again, it's as an idea of He's not just making these things up out of nowhere. They're all coming from the Most High.
I like that.
Fullness. Because, the word, that word even that was spoken about glorifying Him could have been spoken from the foundation of the earth and just reached Him at that time.
Yeah, yes, it's very interesting, scientific. When you think about, if you believe in outer space, whatever, it takes like 8 minutes or something for the sun,
Yeah, the light to get to
for light to get from its origin point to where we are. And so, if you think about, it's weird when you think about things outside of time and space. If Yeshua talks about the idea, if we think about the idea of Yeshua being slain from the foundation of the earth, outside of time and space, if something happens like outside of that time frame, like even when you think about how long it takes for that to reach where we are, is thinking about it in terms of time.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting concept to think about, like the Most High somewhere wherever He is and speaking a thing, and then like it taking all whatever however long it took to reach. You know, sound is slower than light actually,
Much slower.
and so when light happens, you know, like lightning, thunder aren't two different things. They're one thing. Thunder is the sound that it makes. But you see the lightning, if it's way over there, you see it and then you hear it. And so maybe the Most High spoke this a long time ago. I'm saying before this, and then it just took that long to get there. But
That's what I believe.
But some
It's
people-
happened from the foundation of the earth.
but some
We
people
talking quantum physics now, just so you know, right? It's just quantum physics now.
this
At
is
that moment,
yeah.
Everything's already done, technically.
it's done.
Yeah,
Everything
so,
actually, everything's done.
it is done, and that corresponds with this idea of him not coming to judge. At this time, he just coming to he has a mission to spread this word, and there's certain ones who are going to believe the word, and there's certain ones who ain't going to believe it, and that's already known. It's a known thing who's going to believe and who isn't going to believe.
Yeah, it's done.
And there ain't nothing that could have ever happened that could have or did change the fact that there's going to be ones who hear and see, and they're not going to believe. And that's what happened. And so Yeshua didn't come and change anyone's reality. He didn't change anything. He just showed
Give access.
He showed what it looked like. But everybody who was going to believe, believed, and everybody who wasn't going to believe, didn't.
Yep,
Yeah.
That's it.
that's
That's
it.
it.
It's done.
And so, and that comes into the final judgment thing. I'm not able to look at this person who I perceive to be wicked and say that you're never going to make it. Because I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know if you're going to keep on going and then start doing other things
Right.
after that.
Right.
So I can't sit up there and say, because I don't have unlimited knowledge of the path that you're going to take.
Right.
I only know that the path that you're on,
Mhm.
you know, is a wrong path. And if you keep on going on that path, you know, there can only be bad things that happen as a result of it. But the Most High knows. He knows that, you know, this person is going to live so long, and then you're going to turn into the most amazing person that ever was. But only he knows that. You know what I mean? And so
He said he declared the end from the beginning.
yes. So it's done already.
It's already done.
So, you know, we can go out.
We're living in our
supposed-
timeline.
We're supposed to go out and speak to everyone. We're supposed to be that sower that throws out that seed. The minute we say it's not worth me doing it with this guy because he's too far gone.
Yeah, you don't say
You know,
that.
that's outside of the scope of our what's it called? Whenever your job description.
Yeah.
It ain't for you to make that type of a judgment where you're putting someone somewhere. Your job description is to speak the gospel to everybody,
Mhm.
and then they
They could just
either are going to believe or not believe. But the minute you sit up there and say and put them somewhere,
Mhm.
you're out of bounds.
And I did that. I've done that.
Like, man,
I'm
that person,
guilty.
he too far gone.
I'm
I ain't
definitely
got it.
guilty. But Yeshua was a prime example. Who did he mostly hang out with? The sinners, the ones who you wouldn't think would want to listen or do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, very good. Okay, so that being said, I guess we'll be
I
done.
wanted to say
Oh,
one
go
thing.
ahead.
So, you know, being in this blackout, you know, it taught me how much I hate darkness. Right? darkness could be my downfall. Like, a lot of bad things are done in the dark, and I knew, you going down these certain dark alleyways, it could be your last time going down that dark alleyway. You know what I mean? And so, we know that the world is in gross darkness. And the love of the world, is basically, the love of darkness. But Teresa, you and your love that you have for your situation is different. Because, the situation that we have in this world is we're in the world, but not of the world.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? And so we're building the kingdom. That's our job, is to build a kingdom in this world, but it's just not supposed to be of the world.
That's right.
So we can love that. I love that. I love our fellowship. I love our family. We build together. So
Amen.
yeah, I love that too.
I like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting life that we live, and we have a job. We have a job to do. We have to be lights, and your job is not determined by. It don't have anything to do with the darkness. Like, you have to always just be that light in spite of the darkness.
This reminds me of movies, The Darkness.
I mean, it's a real thing. And when we think about it in this way, I think that it should really help us to understand. I mean, the Most High gave us this object lesson that He wanted for us to just think about, is the fact that He really is the light. We really are in this situation where there is nothing but darkness around us, and we have to be the light. We got to be the ones that's coming over with their extension cords. Like, hey man, can I plug into your extension cord? You know what I mean? Like, we got to be that. We got to be those ones. Like, I don't know why I kind of didn't want to share mine. I was waiting for somebody to say that to me, and I didn't want it to happen because I wasn't like.
You know about the generator?
Yeah, I was thinking like I don't want nobody to ask me to use my generator. I'm gonna be honest. But when you think about it from, I just want to be honest. I didn't want nobody to ask me. But when you think about it from a spiritual perspective, we gotta want people to plug into our generators.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have to be the light.
Workers that share your generator either. The roof people.
No, I didn't. I really didn't. I think it's a different context, but from a spiritual perspective, I should let everyone use my generator. But from a carnal perspective, if I'm paying you, you take that off the bill then. You know what I mean? I'll let you use the generator, but take that off the bill. I'll let you put stuff in my dumpster, but take that off the bill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a different.
Yeah, that's business
It's
now.
a different dynamic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He sure was like that. He's like, "Can I put this in the dumpster?" I was like, he was looking like, what? Ain't you supposed to be taking us?
It's business. You making me pay for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You said
yeah.
you was going, that's part of the bill. That's part of the price.
Yeah.
It's not a direct parallel,
I get what you mean.
from the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's so funny. All right. Okay, so we're gonna be done for now. Y'all willing?
41.
We'll be back on the next Shabbat to talk more about the words of the Master and also the Torah portion. But for now, we'll say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.